Hey, so today we have an awesome topic. It is the story of a woman, two women who met at Wharton and started an underwear company, an undergarment company that I love. So let me just pin this comment and then I'm going to get Phoebe on the line. I just saw your request, Phoebe. Founded Oko. Okay. Oops. I'm going to delete that. I'm sorry. I'm going to fix your name. Anatomy. Okay. Founding. Let's make it more specific. That's how I think of you guys. I think of you guys. I have not bought the underwear, so I think of you as your amazing bras. Here we go.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
It's so nice to see you. Sorry, I'm gonna put this
It's
box.
so nice to see you too.
Um,
Hello. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
of course, I love to do this stuff.
Is are orders increasing because of quarantine because people need their comfy?
Yes, so it's kind of all over the place.
Okay.
In general, yes, we have had more orders on our website, particularly for our wire-free bra. But we have a wholesale business too, and because so many of our retail partners are just simply not open, we just um, those orders have gone
Got it. Okay.
down.
Is wholesale like the majority of your orders?
No. In terms from
Okay.
like perspective on a dollar basis, no, not at all.
Okay.
But it is a significant portion of my business, and it's a way to like reach women all over the country that I otherwise would never be able to get access to.
Yeah.
Like for one example, like one of our best like retail partners is based in Oklahoma, and I think that's awesome, and we have a great relationship. But like, when would I personally ever get to Oklahoma? I'm based in New York. It just would never really happen. So
Yeah. So for that partnership, like, did you, Phoebe, go out to Oklahoma and like show the bras there in their space
no,
and underwear?
I wish I did, but we actually are listed on something called Fair, which is like kind of like a wholesale platform. So it connects retailers and brands like Oko, and they can buy our products. And that's how we met. How we
So
met.
I love Oko. It's like I'm amazed like how supportive it is. How like I am talking about the bra because that's what I've tried. But
Right.
also I think we should get that clear from the beginning. Tell us like the range of what you all make so that I'm not getting it wrong all the time.
Sure. So Oko is a bodywear brand, and like how I define bodywear is almost like the antithesis of shapewear. So what we do is like kind of support your body, embrace your body, but we don't want to change it. What we launched with for our collection is a seamless bra underwear. I actually have the underwear here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to change the pinned comment too because I want to get it's a bodywear brand and I love that word bodywear. You said it's the opposite of shapewear.
Right. So if you could see this,
Yeah.
it's seamless. It matches your skin tone. It stretches with you, but it doesn't constrict you,
Yeah.
which I really love because I think that as women we should embrace our bodies. Of course, wearing shapewear once in a while is totally fine, but for the majority of the time, it's really uncomfortable.
Yes.
Braid our curves.
I love it. How did you meet your founder, your co-founder?
So she's actually no longer with the company, but we
Oh,
met.
okay.
Yeah, we were friends at Wharton. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Well, that's very, very interesting. You've already like weathered change
Yeah.
among your main core structure. And
Yes.
when did you start the company? Was it while you were still at Wharton or was it like a year after?
It was still at Wharton.
Okay.
So we launched during the fall semester of our second year, which was the fall of 2018.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, and moved to New York in June of 2019 and just kind of running it full time since then.
Amazing. So it's out of New York.
Yes, I am right now in my Manhattan apartment where I've been for 2 months and change.
Yeah. Oh my God. What was
Yeah.
it like dealing with designers when you started to get this idea? Like you wanted to create a bodywear company.
Yeah.
Where did you go for designers?
So well, the first like step in designing our product is we talked to like a bunch of women really across the size spectrum, age spectrum, as well as like career spectrum was really important for us because we wanted to move with women and we needed to make sure that our stuff worked with different types of activities.
Yeah.
that's like really where we started, and then collected all that feedback in this gigantic like spreadsheet basically. And then in terms of design, like, I mean, we're women, we know what works generally for us.
Yeah.
So like had a kind of idea of like the core product, and then did work with a designer. Her name is Jessica. She's wonderful. We're also helping work with our manufacturer, and got the product made, and then just kind of tested and iterated from there.
Cool. And then you mentioned that woman, Jessica. What else has she worked on, like aside from your body wear?
So I don't know the specific brands, but she basically owns like a design agency, almost like a consulting firm that works with swimwear
Cool.
brands to help them design their collections.
Nice.
Yeah, she's like truly a great person.
Yeah. When you were narrowing down your ideas and coming up with this one, what was like the second closest that you could have launched?
You mean closest product?
Or brand, like when you were between two ideas while a student and you were like, I want to start a company. Or was it not like that? Were you like, I'll either do a bodywear company or nothing?
Yeah, I mean, like I didn't. I for my entire life, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. It's like what I grew up seeing. My grandparents and my mom were entrepreneurs, and I didn't know that it would land on bodywear specifically. I always knew that I wanted to go into fashion. That's just something I personally have been really interested in. I like where we landed because it's like, wow, we get to like enable and empower all the beautiful collections that actual fashion designers come out with, and that's wonderful. But we also get to work with like women in their everyday. It's like section, I think. I mean, honestly, like before Wharton, I thought I was going to start an enterprise tech company because I've worked at startups all my life, and I think that there's like a lot of opportunity to help startups like kind of run and streamline and use technology to power the back end of their operations. And that's where I wanted to go. I still think like in the back of my mind, I'm like, wow, I would love to start this company. But, fashion is what I love to do. So
yeah. How much would you describe Oko as a tech powered company?
I mean, look, like our primary sales channel is tech. It's tech, right? It's a website. I would say that like we're not really that technical, although we rely on technology to reach our customers as well to sell our customers. So of course, Instagram, our website, email, all those sorts of tools.
Yeah. I love that you brought up Instagram for a number of reasons. Firstly, what is it like to work on Instagram as a brand? Like not just as an individual, but someone who's trying to get, genuinely good products out to people.
Yeah. I have probably like the minority view on Instagram when it comes to using it for the business. I think I obviously need it because it's where hundreds of millions of people go to discover new brands, to stay connected with the brands and as well as their friends. But I like to diversify outside of Instagram a little bit more. It's great to use to like connect with people, DM people, show our products on Real Women. At the same time, I don't think I can rely on it just as a sales channel, and I haven't since day one. So we have, as I mentioned before, a wholesale business. Last year in March, we opened up our own pop-up store outside of LA. So, really tried to test different channels to meet all the wonderful ladies that we want to meet.
Yeah. What about using TikTok? Are you able to sell through TikTok?
I actually haven't really used TikTok. I personally have been trying to understand it a little bit more. I think I need like an undergraduate intern in the age range of like 18 or 19.
I'm sure we can get you that. If you really want it, tell me. I'm sure that people will be delighted. How do you find your models? You have such like captivating imagery around the brand. You're so diverse. You're so body diverse. Tell us how you find them and what your process is around photo shoots.
Honestly, the majority of the models are my friends or their friends.
Aww.
I would say like 90%
It's
of
so
them.
good to hear.
I know. I love it because it's authentic. I know the brand is not Phoebe, but it feels me, and I like really can own it. I grew up in LA where all environments that were extremely diverse from like an ethnic perspective, and I think that it's representation ethnically as well as body type has been super important to me, and I'm glad that you can see that come through to Oko.
I love that. And then the other reason I mentioned Instagram is because, I mean, you tell me, you're the expert on it, but is it a year in which body wear is exploding on Instagram?
100%.
Like, is it like Oko came out and there are a ton of other competitors? And can you just give us a sense of like that landscape? Like, why is body wear exploding? Who are the other competitors that you consider?
So I think it's exploding because we have um, a gigantic, it used to be an all, I mean, a gigantic player in our market, and that's, of course, Victoria's Secret. Victoria's Secret, as I'm sure you have read in the news, has been faltering on many fronts. You know, on one side, it's not as diverse as people would like. On the other side, of course, they're running into challenges right now because of COVID and having to have their stores closed. Um, that has been actually, before the pandemic, their decline has been in progress for quite some time. And I think that a lot of brands saw it as an opportunity to come in into the lingerie industry. I'm calling it lingerie, maybe intimates is better.
Yeah.
And plus, in addition to the fact that it's much easier now to launch a business. So those two things coupled together, I think kind of really created an environment where a lot of brands have exploded. I personally don't view competition as a bad thing. You want competition, it keeps you honest, it keeps you on edge, and it makes sure you always produce good products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. What is the difference among the competitors? I mean, who are the other names in the space, and what are the differences around what you guys are doing?
Right. So of course we have Victoria's Secret. There, like in general terms, there are competitors who focus on doing a really great bra. Like bras are higher ticket items. They're the biggest pain point for women with respect to intimates. And I see, like I've seen Cup, NYX does a good job. You see Lively, although they're more focused on the bralette, similar to Oko, come out. Then you have other players who are technically driven or very niche, like fulfill niche needs in the market. So I'm thinking like period panties, for example. NYX is, I mean, not NYX, Thinks is the biggest player in that respect. Um, I think Commando is the closest to Oko from a product perspective in that we're both invisible. They have a higher price point than Oko. How I hope to differentiate what you don't see quite yet is that, like, look, like I, through this brand, hope to advocate for more intentional consumption, minimal living, meaning that I want women to like have things that are actually worth owning.
Yeah.
Why, we have today is super versatile, it's really comfortable, and it works with just more of your clothing. My plan is to expand into other areas of, let's call it your top drawer. So,
Cool.
other categories that I can't really name right now because I don't want to give away the secret, but a lot of stuff are not in the background, other categories that are just beyond the bra and underwear. And we have nipple coverage.
I love talking to you. I'm like totally delighted by you, and I hope you're like a lifelong friend, to be honest. And I'm just, part of that I attribute to like Wharton and just like your ability to explain yourself and break things down. And I loved your analysis of your competitors. It was so useful to anybody listening. I also want to, bring up your families. You mentioned your mom's an entrepreneur. Like, a lot of who you are today was formed by who you were as a child. So bring us back to who you were as a child. You said you grew up in LA. What did your mom do for her business?
Yeah, so my mom, let me backtrack. So I'm half Japanese, half Korean. My Korean, my mom, her siblings, her parents were all born in Korea and came over to the US after the war. But on my Japanese side of the family, I'm actually fifth generation American. So I'm super American on my Japanese side. Probably most people I met. The reason, like immigrants, when they come over to the US, they typically start their own businesses. So my mom's parents, they started their own restaurant business in LA, and my mom set up her own flower shops also in downtown LA, close to her own parents. I grew up watching that. It was really hard work. This is not like high end kind of businesses. These are really like main street sorts of things,
Right.
But that they made a good living for themselves, and it's like how I grew up seeing how one makes wealth for their families, and it's just been an inspiration ever since.
I have a couple questions that I'm just curious your take on it. Why do immigrants tend to start their own businesses when they come to a new country, in your opinion?
Honestly, I think in part it's the dream. So you come to America, you think like, wow, anything is possible here. Let me start my business and like let's go and make wealth for my family. I think another part is that in America, for immigrants especially, starting your own business, if it's a restaurant or a bodega or a flower shop, the barriers entry are relatively low. Like my grandparents could never come and start being an investment banker. They just didn't have that skill set, nor did they have the English speaking skills. But owning a restaurant in downtown LA that was close to all the office buildings, that's feasible for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amazing. I want to just pop a question in from your fans. So Lucas is an amazingly creative person. Parents also inspired him a lot. I've met his mom. She's amazing. And he is an artist. He's in Belgium now, but he's been an interior designer all over the world. And he's interested in men's underwear. He also says, I'm confused by the bottoms. I see on the website, they look painted on. What is the material?
So I'll answer the second question first. It's called a gusset, and it's that cotton lining on the inner part of your, like, basically where your like vagina goes. He made it dark, kind of like as a signature for the brand, but also because for women, especially with your lighter underwear, when you get a period stain on it, it effectively ruins the underwear, even though it's totally fine. So this is not period underwear by any means, but it just hides those pesky stains for a little bit longer. To the men's underwear question, get that all the time, especially when I was at Ward. Like I truly every day some guy would come up like, so what are you going to make men's underwear? It's not in my core competency to like service the men's underwear market. Of course, it's fine. I think that at first, so I want to serve the ladies. So, keep on moving to other categories that would work with them. And then maybe one day go into men's.
Yeah. I love that. He goes, it looks very cool to have no waistband. And I think that's like, that's an essential part of why Oko works so much for me. I think that waistband, can you just break down the waistband for us? Like, why was the waistband a part of traditional undergarment design? And why is it being considered maybe taken off in more recent designs like yours?
I think a reason why the waistband was there initially, like traditionally, is because it helps keep the underwear in place and on your hips. I think why we don't need it anymore today is because there's been so many advancements in materials technology where, the underwear can stay in place without a waistband because, like with us, we have a nylon spandex mix. It like holds onto your entire body and doesn't move. Whereas like cotton, if you didn't have a waistband, it would just fall right off of you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I loved that you used that phrase, make wealth, like when you were describing the path of immigrants and of your mother and just speaking like for the larger community, this is the way you said, you used the phrase, this is the way that, enterprising entrepreneurship is the way that people can make wealth for their families. So I love that you're using that phrase so candidly. I think that's super, super important. And it's like, I consider that a lot with different career paths and entrepreneurship projects that I'm taking on, because there's a way that you can be creative and basically be at like the poverty line. And then the consideration, I think internally, is like, how can I generate wealth for me and my ancestors if I'm going to have them with this? So what does it mean for you to make wealth, like in the position that you're in?
So right now my plan is to like, the first people, if I ever make any money with Oko, the first people I'm going to pay are my mother and my father. I'm an only child. So and they, especially my father, who actually was the one who raised me, like he put in so much of his life savings to make sure I went to good schools, to make sure I had, went to basketball and had like cute clothes to match my friends' clothes and all that. I need that first. And so that's me. Making wealth is not about being selfish or like, getting the prettiest house, which I'd love to do one day, but really to give back to them.
I love that description of your dad, like getting you outfits for basketball, and you just gave such like delightful details. Let's talk more about him. Like, what was he in your life? What qualities did he inspire in you that brought you to Oko?
Categorically, when my friends or my boyfriend, prior and current, met like my dad, they always say, your dad is the most unique person. So he became a firefighter when I was really young. Cause like, as I mentioned, when my parents were married and it was like, I was a toddler, my mom had the flower shop, but we didn't have health insurance. So he's like, I'll become a firefighter, have some stable income for the family and get health insurance for my family. And he's kept with that career path since, just retired this year. He is a wonderful guy. I mean, he lives in LA. He's a hippie. He wears stones around his neck. And he has always prioritized me his entire life. I remember when I was in second grade, all my friends had really cool hairstyles that their moms were doing. And my dad had no idea what to do. So he used to divide my entire head into quadrants and put 4 ponytails.
I bet you were adorable.
Because it was like the best he could do. And that's so cute. But that really kind of describes, I think, his character and who he was as a father.
I want to ask you about Georgetown because actually my sister went there, and so I've
Okay.
spent time there, and she had her own experience of it, and she loved it. I think, she did
Yeah.
pre-med and she studied Russian politics and has some of her best friends still from there. How did you like that time in DC and
Love.
the college, the university?
Yeah, I
You loved
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, I mean, I I talk to my Georgetown friends every single day. I was just on like two different group chats with them. Georgetown as a school is fantastic academically, but I think socially is really where it gets its strength from. The bonds that you form at Georgetown, it seems to be the case for most of the people I know, are really strong and last forever. For OCO, even we did like a very early friends and family round, really small to like buy our first inventory orders.
Yeah.
And the majority of the investors came through my Georgetown network, not my Wharton network, which is pretty great. I think it says a lot about the school.
That does. And I think it makes a
Yeah.
difference to have the 4-year experience versus the 2-year.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
What I love that you brought, I mean, I'm so happy you looped back a little bit to Wharton because I do want to ask you, I think like there's a little bit of chat about business school right now because I think it's seen as a time that may be good to apply,
Yeah.
in that it's like a little more porous. Fewer international students are going to have an easy time coming because of quarantine, so and so, all that. What's your opinion on that? Have you heard
Uh,
friends that they have like delayed deadlines? Like at least I
yeah.
know Berkeley and Dartmouth have like June 3rd deadline, something.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been quite following the
Yeah.
admission particulars, but look, like if you want to go to business school and that's the right path for you, meaning like say you're in banking and you want to make a switch to tech or something like a career switch or something, or you need the network, yes, go to business school, especially go now if it is easier to get into. I wouldn't say go to business school for going to business school's sake because of the pandemic. Like it's still going to be wildly expensive. It is still 2 years of your life. So you have to make sure it's the right choice for the career that you want to take.
Yeah. Do you feel like what you took away from those 2 years was essential in terms of the knowledge you gained?
I think so. Yes. I think I have like an interesting experience with business school. Because I was launching a business at the time, and I was launching this type of business that Wharton as a university generally doesn't really support. We weren't a Warby Parker, we weren't a tech startup, so they didn't really like
Hmm.
want to give us money. To be quite frank, I think I learned a lot more like on being able to build networks. I don't think I learned as much about learning to run my own business. My prior experience in my career was way more relevant.
It's interesting. A couple of things you brought up. Like one is that you're like, so does Wharton invest in companies of its students?
It does. The University of Pennsylvania, I should say, of which Wharton is a part,
Yeah.
fund that a variety of funds that do kind of select and invest in startups. I would say, in complete disclosure, if
Yeah.
anyone wants to go to Wharton, I don't think they have as many resources in the entrepreneurial program as other top tier MBA programs do. That being said, I know they're really trying to build it up right now. It's actually like when we left last year, they were building this like, gigantic entrepreneur center on campus. So I think that's all changing, which
Yeah.
is,
Yeah. And then the next thing I'm going to ask you is great because it'll loop us back to OCO, which
yeah.
is, you mentioned like Warby Parker and you're like, Wharton maybe, or UPenn wasn't as supportive of a company like OCO as they would be of a company like Warby Parker. Can you just tell us the difference from your perspective between the two business models?
Yeah, I think business model wise, we're probably pretty similar, meaning like we have a direct to consumer core, right? Warby Parker obviously is gigantic, and has a really heavy retail presence, and where they don't have a wholesale presence. I have a wholesale presence, and obviously are a much smaller scale. I think what the difference is that at the time, Warby Parker was so disruptive to the industry. It was not only one of the first direct-to-consumer business models, but it also completely changed an industry that was like just humming along, doing its thing, and hadn't been challenged in quite some time.
Yes.
I think with OCO, we were launched several years later, where the direct-to-consumer model was almost standard by the time we launched. So,
Got it.
like, yeah,
Like there wasn't the feeling that you are disrupting the underwear
right,
industry and
right, exactly.
in what sense? Because someone could argue that you are.
Um, I think with the eyewear industry, it was so consolidated into two primary like suppliers who, supplied all the eyewear brands.
Got it.
Like in the intimates industry, there you had Victoria's Secret, but there was still a lot of other players underneath. You just had a very large one, as opposed to just having a pure oligopoly almost.
Right, right, right. And then I also like that you mentioned like the friends and family round, which you
Yeah.
said, like, how did you go about that? Was like a Kickstarter campaign, a GoFundMe? Did you use like a traditional investment
Yeah.
contract? What did you
So
do for that?
we didn't do a Kickstarter. What we did is, well, the people we reached out to, literally old bosses, moms of my best friends, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And how we structure the investment, they're convertible notes. So basically, it's like 2 years of debt on your books, and then they convert into equity. And we use a lawyer, of course, to do all of this. I highly recommend that you get a lawyer
Yeah.
to advise you on all of these kinds of matters.
Yes, yes. How did you find your lawyer?
Through he's actually based in Philly, works with startups, and I actually knew a few startups who used him, so we just
Yeah.
asked him. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. And then what about branding and marketing? Like any thoughts you can share for companies that are just getting going? Like what do you wish you had known?
What I wish I had known, I wish that at the beginning I invested a lot more money into branding and marketing.
Wow.
I
I
know.
literally just had the conversation yesterday where I was like deciding whether to like invest very early in that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is totally worth it. I think we launched with an okay brand. It wasn't as focused as I'd liked. And I think if we had, more time and put more money, it didn't really kind of rush, we would have had a better brand from the outset. But that's fine now. I'm very happy with
You have an amazing brand now.
that
Yeah.
now. On the marketing front, like for the first 11, 12 months of our existence, we didn't do any paid digital advertising, no Google AdWords, no Instagram ads or Facebook ads. And the reason is because, these ads are becoming wildly expensive because there's so many brands trying to compete on these platforms.
Yeah.
I didn't want to waste money unnecessarily, be unprofitable for the rest of our lives. I still truly believe that. At the same time, we can't reach scale without these digital platforms. I mean, we
Yeah.
try events everywhere. I open a freaking store in
Yeah.
LA. You just cannot get the reach that these digital platforms can provide. So yeah, I would have started that a long time
Yeah.
ago. I now have a PR agency I'm working with, a friend of a friend, and that I would have done a long time ago too.
Nice. How do you, among like the ones you mentioned, like Google AdWords, Facebook ads, where do you get the most bang for your buck if you have like a small brand that's willing to invest a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely into like testing. So allocate a portion of your budget and say, let's go test everywhere and see what sticks. What we have found through the test sticks for us is Instagram by far, specifically Instagram posts, not stories. And I think it's because it's just a little harder to like navigate past it, whereas stories you can just like flip through pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Very, very cool. So you're going to go into more of the top shelf products.
Top drawer.
Um,
Yeah.
top drawer, top
Yeah.
drawer. You started very specific.
Yes.
How important is it that a brand who launches right now in the noisy environment we're in starts with a very specific product?
I think it's really important. It's actually, and I've been reading a lot of management books on this. It's so much better to start off in like a specific niche and then expand from there, as opposed to going broad and then trying to drill in. The reason is because you want to get a really core group of followers that would be your advocates as the brand expands. And when you go too broad, you're spreading your resources way too thin. Yeah, so that
Mm-hmm.
definitely go narrow and then broaden out. It also is like a better use of your resources. Like my motto is like do less than obsess. So pick a few things and then do them crazy well. And when you pick a few things, you could dedicate all of your money and time towards them and make sure that they succeed, as opposed to spreading your resources over all these things and not having enough time or money to do them well.
I love it. That motto, do less than obsess.
Yeah.
When did you, how did you find that motto for your life?
I read it in a book somewhere,
Yeah.
and I read it over Christmas break this last year, and it is guiding all of my strategy and operations for 2020 for Oko.
Amazing. So can
Yeah.
you give us just one example of where that principle came into play in a practical way?
Yes. So I mentioned that I did a store last year in November. It was great, but it's really expensive and takes a lot of time to like get a store running and going.
Yeah.
Um, before we launched a store in 2019, I was like, oh, in 2020 we can launch another, probably on the East Coast somewhere for a short period of time. That is off the table for me this year. This was pre-COVID, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, so if COVID never happened, we still wouldn't have done it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and the reason is that I also I needed to grow digitally. I needed to invest in my brand, into product. If I opened up a store, think about how much time and money that would take to do it well.
Yeah.
And all over and like other areas of the business. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
that's cool.
Um, you mentioned management books.
Yeah.
Which management book, if any, has really helped you out lately?
Let me think. Oh, my friend Molly from Georgetown. I mean, not Georgetown, Wharton. Um, she just wrote a book called Instagram Iceberg. I thought it was really good. I read it actually in a day. And it just talks about kind of the other side or the downside of relying too heavily on Instagram as your primary like sales and advertising channel as a brand. Obviously really relevant for us, something I also like believe in as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what's it been like to work with investors?
I mean, like great, because these investors are like most of them are my personal network. So they're super easy and kind. And when we get on the phone, we just chat about everything but the business.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of them I look to as like almost second parents. So it's great. I would say I'm very fortunate in who I have as investors.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
They're not institutional investors. They're not VC companies or whatever, or even like PE or whatever. So yeah, it's very easy.
So when you say they're not institutional investors, you mean that they're all like angel investors? Is that the difference, or what's the distinction there?
Yeah, that they're individuals. So like, when we sign the investment documents, it's their name. It's not like whatever VC
Point
company.
blank ventures. Yeah.
Right.
You're signing with individuals.
Right.
And did you consider going down a path of VC instead?
Never, no. It's never been in the cards.
Is that something like when you were at Wharton, it was like kind of discouraged, or like when did you decide that VC wouldn't be your path?
I think it was, I think it's because we looked at other direct to consumer brands in the landscape, intimates or not, and those that got VC funding were always like expanding into new categories or whatever that didn't seem aligned with their core strategy and their core business. And the reason is because they have investors who are looking to get a return, right? So like they want growth, growth, growth. And unfortunately, in some cases, in my opinion, it was growth at all costs.
Yeah.
Opposed to us, where we always wanted to grow, but if we had to do it more slowly but do it profitably, that's fine. That's fine with us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you take us back to your first sale? Like when did you first see like, oh my God, somebody bought a bra?
So our first sales were actually in person at Wharton in the cafeteria. Like it was like truly like we had a box. I remember I ordered something from Net-a-Porter to get that really pretty black box that it comes in, and I put all the underwear in it, and we just like sat there, and everyone came and just bought Oko. It was like truly remarkable. I think it was such a special experience to be able to do that while at school and seeing like all of our friends react in person. Yeah, that was really cool. And then, yeah, the first sale that came online, I mean, we were like jumping for joy, right? Like from a stranger, I should say, a sale from a stranger.
What do you think? I just want to like give you a little like kind of like, okay, so here's an example. I have a friend who makes these amazing, like kind of crushed velvet bell bottoms and all sorts of things. And she lives out on Ocean Beach, and she's like a single mom. She's like not interested in money. She like didn't go to business school, like works at a coffee shop, but she has these amazing clothes.
Yeah.
I started her Instagram. She has a bunch of followers on Instagram now, which is great. Is there any, like, short of her starting like a very, very proper business where she's like investing in a PR agency and all of that, are there any shops, like, do you like Shopify or like Etsy, or where would someone like that with your expertise go for the next step of just getting a little bigger?
Um, yeah, so I mean, we use Shopify. It powers the back end, but it's not really a sales channel per se, besides like, your website. My suggestion to her, if she is looking, if she is okay with going wholesale, to look into Bulletin and Fair, which are the wholesale platforms that I mentioned. So they connect, retailers and brands. It's super easy, frictionless process for the retailers to purchase the brand's items, and it's all online driven. I like wholesale personally because, albeit you get a lower margin, but you get reach, so much broader reach than you would be able to do on your own. And then separately from that, I would say, yeah, Etsy is a great place to start. Maybe Pinterest would be a nice place for her to start as well.
Yeah.
She might have some ads, say like, hey, let me allocate, $1,000 for the first month in Instagram or Pinterest advertising, and see where that takes us, see what the reactions are in the market and that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Awesome. What about dealing with like a manufacturer? Like you have a woman who makes her own clothing. Let's say you were a woman who made the bras by hand.
Yeah.
What would be your next step to then find a manufacturer who's going to reproduce these at a quality that you like?
God, so manufacturing, especially overseas, is such a black box. It's a man's world. It's like handshake kind of deals. We did it the wrong way from the beginning, not meaning like the quality of our products is great. I'm very happy with it. I am, but our relationship with our manufacturer for the bra and underwear was so terrible. Like I can't even get into it because it was so bad. And
Yeah.
it's because of what we were doing, right? We didn't ask for references. We didn't like set a contract, all these like basic things. If My suggestion is that there are firms who make their living on connecting manufacturers and brands. If you are just starting to go to manufacture, especially if you're looking to go overseas, just hire one of the firms. It
Like
is.
have you heard of a good firm?
There's this one company called Makers Row that does a lot of this. Yeah, so I would go.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's amazing. I love that you grew up in both like a Korean and a Japanese home.
yeah.
Can you like give us your take on those two cultures and like what each brings to the table that's awesome and maybe downsides or whatever you've learned from those two cultures?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think both of my cultures together kind of taught me. I mean, you know what Asian minimalism is now. Marie Kondo made it a thing.
Yeah.
um, they Asians are really functional. They're into things that really work for them. I think that's great. It's obviously reflected in Oko, but it's kind of how I grew up too.
Yeah.
Differences between the two: Koreans are loud as fuck. Like they're loud. They're doers. They drink a lot. Like it's just loud.
Yeah, they are very much an eating, drinking culture. It's so
So
fun.
much
Yeah.
karaoke, that stuff. On the other hand, my Japanese side of the family, because we've been here for so long, my grandparents and my uncle were interned during World War II.
Wow.
And it just like a completely different experience. It's like more about, I don't want to say obedience, but it's like, you follow who's ever in charge. Like my grandfather still was interned, but he went to go fight for the American army because that's
Wow.
what you do as
Right.
a person. And I think that like the two are just interesting. I'm glad I grew up with both of them, but they're different. They
Oh my
also,
God, that experience that you just mentioned about your grandfather just gave me chills. I mean, was he a very important person in your life?
yeah, I mean, he's wonderful. He actually lived till he was 101. He passed away a few years ago, and yeah, he used to pick me up from preschool and all this stuff, and he never mentioned any of it
Told his story too much. He was just very like,
or
yeah,
being crazy.
yeah.
Yeah,
I love that you mentioned this is totally different topic, but you were like, at first, one of the things that I thought you said that was really interesting was you wish you had invested a little bit more in branding in the very beginning.
yeah,
Because looking back, you didn't like really how the brand was in the very
yeah,
beginning. And that was probably before it reached me. Like I never saw your brand looking not good, So
yeah.
tell us, like, what did it look like when it was in a state that you didn't like?
Yeah, I think, I think like, look, our logos were the same, our colors were the same. I think what I didn't really like was that the messaging wasn't, as we mentioned before, like niche enough or targeted enough. I like right now how we're talking about a more intentional kind of an intentional living type of consumer. That's really important to me. But also, because we had no money from the beginning, all of our photos were truly just our friends or like our photographer friends, and so they weren't cohesive, which was fine. They were still great photos, still beautiful models. I love all of them, but
Yeah.
I think brand, cohesion is actually really important and something you need to focus on.
I know. I do love that. Yeah, your photos are very cohesive.
Yeah.
I still want to be your model though.
Oh my God, can you please?
Can I please? Like you can send me bras and underwear and I'll return them.
No,
I would be like so happy to do like a photo shoot in my Zen garden. Like so happy.
I'm gonna totally follow up on that. We're launching a new color next week, and because I haven't been able to do a photo shoot, I'm basically going to all of like our prior models or my friends, like, please help me take
Oh my God, I would be so happy. I love that stuff.
Amazing.
Yes, absolutely. Tal Harris, who's a filmmaker in LA, says, do you think affordable custom-made bras will ever be a thing? Custom-made, I think, is the emphasis there.
Because I don't think you could do custom-made bras that are affordable. You know, maybe. I know that, by way of example, I know that Levi's tried to do a line where it was custom-made jeans. And what I read was that it just didn't do that well because the sizes that were standardized and available on the market were good enough for most women. Bras are obviously a little bit more body specific, but I think for the vast majority of the market, the bras that are on the market today are good enough or fit, right? You could get into like custom made bras for like pretty niche sizes, so like really small waist but maybe really big cups, or on the opposite side, like kind of a bigger band but smaller cups. Those are sizes that you don't see a lot.
Mm-hmm. Cool, great answer. It's interesting to be like, from a macro level, like you have a company that makes bras. Do you get any, like, I'm thinking of like Dita Von Teese and like people who are like obsessed with like collecting bras, and like there's such a history to corsets and like the whole thing, corsets. Do you get any sort of like fanatics of this culture coming towards you? I'm not saying I'm not saying the word fanatic in a way that sounds negative, but yeah. What kinds of characters have you encountered because of this topic?
Nobody who are super fanatics in like the traditional like lacy lingerie market, because that's definitely what we're not.
Yeah.
I think I do get a lot of women who are like, oh my God, this bra feels great. It actually fits my boobs, and they will buy like 10 at a time. But these aren't like these aren't celebrities. They're everyday women. The fanatics, I guess, are fanatics in the best way possible. Obviously, tend to be older, so they like 35 to 55 age range. That's older than me, so like not actually old at all.
Yeah. And then I'm just kind of curious, I guess, to wrap up the conversation, like what other brands you use, like even in terms of skincare, what shampoos you like can we just go through a couple categories? I'm interested, like what you love.
Of course. So I am definitely the type of person that like, I don't have a lot of things, but when I do like something, I go all in.
Yes, tell us what you like.
So I love my shower cap, the shower cap with like 3 or 4 H's. And it's just like a great shower cap. It's super cute. I wish I could take you to my bathroom, but it's a mess.
I should get that for this. I go in a hot tub and I constantly wrap my hair up in towels because I don't like the chlorine like misting into my hair. Maybe I should it's one of the really cute ones with like the design and stuff, right? Okay.
I get it. I bought like 6, not for myself. I bought it for my boyfriend who lives with me. He has long curly hair.
Cool.
I bought all their birthday. It is such a good product. It's worth the money all the way.
Why do you like it?
I have a gigantic head and it fits over my head. I like it because it's super cute and it works well. Like they have this kind of patented technology, and it actually repels the water, and it doesn't smell like shower caps usually smell after getting like wet or whatever.
Yeah.
That is perfect for me. I don't want to wash my hair. That helps with that.
Okay, cool. Love that.
Yeah. That's a great brand. Second brand, my friend Hannah owns this company called Godash Dot. I really love her Puffle backpack because it's just like super functional. It's also really cute. And I just like stuff everything in there and like walk around all day. Especially in New York, where it like it's so like cumbersome to have like a purse, Yeah. Like that a lot. And then for skincare, I am so boring when it comes to skincare. I use one lotion for my face and body and just have a face wash, and then that's it. And it works for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I use CeraVe lotion.
Is it like a lotion you get at a drugstore, or what kind of lotion is it?
Yeah. CeraVe. Yeah, so
Nice.
easy.
So you're like really like non-irritated. Cool.
Yeah.
No, my friend who's a dermatologist, she's like Cetaphil and CeraVe, like for me. She tells patients a lot to get them, and she'll
Yeah.
also do like acid peels, but like that's her basic.
Yeah.
Uh yeah.
Totally.
What about clothing? What about your clothes? Like what do you love? What brands do you trust?
Um, so I love my leave. I'm gonna backtrack. So last
Yeah.
year I days wearing 10 pieces of clothing. I don't do that anymore, like as a daily practice, but I think it really did kind of teach me about like, I needed just a few things to look good and great and feel confident. I don't need to keep shopping. So like I wear
Wait,
the
what
same,
was the practice? Tell us what that practice was.
I wear 10 pieces of clothing for 100 days.
Interesting.
And like, I mean, that is like really hardcore minimal living. I really don't recommend anyone do it. It was like mentally taxing towards the end, but it truly streamlined my wardrobe like never before. I truly wear like my Levi's every day. I like Realization Par. I like Sandy Ling. Um, I'm trying to think what else.
What do you think of this company, Jenny Kane?
I keep seeing her name everywhere. I haven't really looked into it, but she seemed like the founder seems really cute. I haven't bought anything from her though.
I bought a bath mat the other day because they're doing like it pops up so much and it's so beautiful, but it's so expensive. It's like
Yeah,
cashmere sweaters for like 375. Like it's like
yeah,
beyond like Theory and Vince. It's like a little LA company that's like
yeah.
does high quality things, I think. So that's why I'm curious about the bath mat. It might
Right.
be a return.
Those because I really want a new bath mat.
Well, at least they had a small and a large. The small was 75, the large was 95, and they were doing like like 15 or 20% off. I think it was 25% off.
Oh, that's
I
not
can
that.
let you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll let you know. Um, anything else you want to say? Any ways that like things that we should know about, like codes or like quarantine things or ways to support you and your business?
Yeah, I mean, to support it, Oko, I mean, anything really helps. Even just like a follow on Instagram or signing up for our email list. Like, I love to meet all of you guys, and it like really makes me so happy, and it keeps all of my team going.
Yeah.
For quarantine, you know, I actually the best piece of advice that I need to be better about following is like let yourself be all the things, like all the emotions, whatever, go up and down. Quarantine is super hard for some people, and I know that sometimes for myself, I get upset at myself when I feel stressed out or sad because we've been inside for 2 months, especially in New York City. But
Yeah.
it's okay to feel those things, and I think that's like why we're humans, you know.
I love it. You seriously, like, I'm so delighted by you. I'm so amazed and just really so grateful. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.